G'day comrade subscribers, hope you're all well. So I'm back home in Port Macquarie after going up to Queensland for the week. Caught up with my cousin Christine, who was over from New Zealand, and her family. So my wife gets along with her quite well, because I met my wife Debs, who's South African, in London, and that's where my cousin Christine was. So I finished uni and I went over to London for a few months before I got my job with Nokia and moved to Finland for a few years. So that's where my wife Debs and cousin Christine first met, and they've known each other since then. They get along great. So I think my wife was more excited to go and catch up with my cousin than I was, if that makes sense. So that was good. So only unfortunately the night, because the school holidays are all different. So in Queensland, I think the school holidays have just finished, whereas here in New South Wales we're halfway through the 2-week mid-year holidays. And I think New Zealand, I think maybe they were similar to Queensland, so I think they've gone back to school next week or something. Anyway, doesn't matter. Let's not get into a big discussion about school holidays. So we could only catch up with them basically for a night or so before they were heading back, and then just went and visited my folks in I normally say Brisbane, and note for my American viewers, it's Brisbane. Don't say Brisbane, it's Brisbane, B-I-N. I know it's not spelt like that. That's how it's pronounced. It's Queensland, not Queensland, Queensland. But yes, actually they live in Logan, which is a separate city south of Brisbane, but it's all pretty much just continuous urban sprawl. So we always used to say Brisbane because no one knows where Logan is, but jokingly now, you can actually say Logan because you see, there's been a shooting in Woodridge, or there's been a knife attack in Kingston. I say that as a joke. That's a joke. But anyway, so the Mikrosha. I need to see if I can, because I completely forgot to take the small fuse with me. So I'm going to see if I can get so I haven't ordered anything. I guess I could just put a bit of copper wire there. But I'll see if I can get a fuse for that today, so we can test the power supply. Otherwise, there are other options. So this is the mean well that I've had for ages. That's convenient because it's got a 5-pin DIN as well. Unfortunately, the pinouts. So I did modify the vector. So I was able to modify the vector quite simply to take this. But looking at the, so this is the Bitanya, this is the power X5 input for the Mikrosha. It's a bit different. So we've got plus 5 volts on pin 1 and 4, whereas, that'll be my neighbour. I've got my garage open slightly. Whereas that's on pin 3 on the mean well. Plus 12, so is on pin 2 for the Mikrosha, pin 5. So, and obscure, which is the ground / common. So I think it'd be a bit more difficult to modify the Mikrosha's PCB just to accept this. So if the original power supply, if I can't get that working, another option is I've got a bunch of Meanwell open frame power supplies here. So I think it's PT65. I think these are triple voltage out. I think they're the ±5 and +12, I think. And I've got some connectors for the board, so they should be the correct type. Yeah. So what I can do is just put this into a jiffy box, wire up the mains. I'll probably add a switch as well. It's got a fuse on board, so I don't need to worry about that. And then make up. I've got the pins. I've got the connectors for the DC out as well, and then I can just hook that up to a 5-pin DIN socket to match this, and then I can replace. I know that would be sacrilege, but I could even replace this. That'll actually fit. But I don't want to do that because this is yeah, this is a beautiful power supply. I don't want to damage that. So yeah, so if I can't get a fuse for that, I might whip up one of these just so I can power it on. Or I can use the Meanwell and then just have a 5-pin DIN to 5-pin DIN converter to convert these over. But let's see. Oh, wifey's home. I better go help her if I want one of her beautiful sandwiches. I'll be back. Alright, I've helped the wife in. Now, actually the first thing I was going to do is I was going to take all the keycaps off carefully and give them a good wash, just to get all the dirt out. I don't know if it's going to help or not, but yeah, just to give them all a good wash whilst the sun's out so they'll dry nicely. Also work on the power supply. I don't know what to do here. So like I said, there was other motherboards I've seen have definitely got an electrolytic and the ceramic was connected, so I don't know why that's been disconnected like that. I have to see. And there's been other little mods done as we discussed the first time. So yeah, anyway, let's clean up. Looks like some cuts. They tried to do some cuts there. Is that the Britannia? Not sure. That might be Britannia in there. That might be the power supply in. Not sure. Looks like there's been some cuts attempted there on the rails. Anyway, let's just worry about the keyboard at the moment. All the keycaps, all the keycaps are off and have been cleaned. So I think they've come out as well as they can do. Certainly got all the dust off them, I think. Well, some of them, okay, looks like probably need a bit more of a scrub. So I'll just use warm soapy water. Maybe I should have used some cream cleanser. I might do that before I put them back on. So if you wanted to have a close-up, so there we go. So they double shot, is that right? Would these be double shot? So JCU KEN layout. And I'm actually thinking of trying to get a Cherry MX compatible set of JCU KEN keycaps made, because they're not, as far as I know, you can't get them. So certainly in the Cyrillic world, they have now switched to QWERTY. So the Cyrillic layout is the same, but they've gone QWERTY rather than JCU KEN. So there's no real call for that layout anymore. So I'm looking at getting a set done. Yeah, I might give these another scrub with some cream cleanser. But I need to get minimum 200 sets, and each set's about $16 US each, and then shipping to Australia would be $570 US. So anyway, I've got to look at it. I certainly don't need 200 sets, but I'm going to do a separate video about it just to see if there is any interest. Anyway, so I'll give those another clean. But before we put those back on, so these are the key switches. We'll have a closer look. You can see it's basically just it's pretty standard. Well, I've seen these before, so pretty cheap. So you can see there's a lower contact and an upper contact, and yeah, that's basically it. And the let me just grab a key switch. And it just basically pushes down, and the contacts make contact, and the key is pressed. But as you can see, there's quite a few. There's probably some oxidation, but you can see some of them probably need a bit of TLC. So there is actually a section in the manual, technical maintenance, and it describes how to do some repairs. So I've done an English translation, which I've got here, and that's basically a diagram of the key switch. So you've got the upper contact, you've got the lower contact, and you have this plate there. And what it says is disconnect the power, remove the key by applying some force in the vertical direction. So increase the gap between the upper and lower contacts by bending the plate installed above the lower contact, so by bending this plate down. So don't actually touch the contacts because you can break them basically. So it says to move that plate down. So I'm not sure exactly how easy that's going to be. Seeing as each key switch is surrounded by this. In fact, if you have a look, they're actually groups of 4, so they're not actually individual key switches, but they're actually blocks of 4 that have been put in. Obviously that's the block of 2 for the space down there. We've got some different colors here for some reason. The function and cursors have been, still a block of 4, but they've been put in sideways. So yeah, I'm just wondering whether I should see about replacing these with Cherry MX. So to do that, obviously what I'll need to do is, because they're not Cherry MX compatible, they're not directly compatible, I'd be very surprised if they were, but you'd have to design a small converter board for each key switch really. So, whoa! It's the first time I'm looking underneath the board, and there's been some work done down here as well. Okay. So this would have been kind of Soviet era work, I guess, because we've got the silver/palladium capacitors being used. So not the cheap crap they manufactured later on. So this would be Soviet era, I guess. Hackery for some reason. So we've got some changes over here on the DRAM side for some reason. Okay. Bit of a worry. What else? Jeez. Okay, we've got some changes done down here to the keyboard as well. I don't know why. It's interesting. Unless that was just basically the keyboard design and they couldn't route the key switch up to there, so they just had to basically run a wire. Yeah. It's a bit of a mess really. So this actually this interface here, this edge connector, I believe that's for a disc controller. I have seen some pictures where there is a big kind of cartridge sticking out of the machine, and there is a schematic for a disc controller, so maybe that's what that was for. But yeah, I'm starting to wonder whether this machine's going to work with all the kind of precarious changes that have been made. But yeah, so what was I saying? Oh, this one looks a bit... Now let's have a closer look at some of these key switches. So yeah, as I was saying, I'm not too confident that all of these key switches are going to be tip-top shape. It does look like a bit of... yeah. It's going to be a bit of work to restore these original keys, I think, if possible. See, that one's starting to come off completely there. And like, you can't just replace this single one here, you've got to take out the whole block of 4. That's, yeah, I'm not too... Yeah, I think I might see about designing a replacement. I might do that. I think that might be worthwhile. So like I said, what we do is there's a block of 4 here. So basically, we'd have to design. Let me grab a Cherry key switch. Right. So here's just a standard Cherry MX key switch, and physically they are basically the same size. So it'd just be a matter of designing a small PCB to take the Cherry MX layout, and then have the pins like that to replace these key switches. You can see there's a space there. Actually, one of the space springs was missing, So the springs aren't too terribly important. They're got them over here, my little Nokia mug. So if I can get one by itself. Meanwhile, here's one I prepared earlier. So pretty simple. They're 10 mil high by 5 mil in diameter. So I don't think that's would be too difficult to get. But if I'm going to replace these anyway with cherries, it doesn't really matter. It'll be a bit of work. So what you need to do is basically you'd design the little daughter board, put the cherry in, and then you'd solder both of them in together. Or I could use maybe Gator on low profile. So I've ordered a bunch of those for the Cambridge computer Z88. So maybe even low profile key switches. But then that's where I would prefer to have those JCUKEN layout key switches made. So far what I've been doing is just using blanks and handwriting the layout. So, but if I want this to work, if it's going to work, I don't have much faith in these fellows, unfortunately. But anyway, let's see if we can get this powered up. I haven't been out today to get that fuse. Let's shall we try it without a fuse? Let's see, what time is it? Oh, it's 3:30. I can still go out. Let me find the fuse and see if I can actually buy one locally here in Port. I've had a look at the fuse, and basically, so I think it's a 500mm slow blow, and it measures 15mm tall by say 4mm in diameter. I can get 500mm slow blow, but they are 20mm height and 5mm in diameter. So I'm not sure if this is 5mm. I'll have to check. I didn't bring my calipers down. But what I can do is basically, if I have to, is just replace the original fuse holder with a Western one, so that'll accept the fuse. Looks like there should be space in there. It's going to be a bit of a pain. But if that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do. So I'm going to pop out and grab that fuse and see how I go. See how different it is to the original. Wherever the hell I've put that now. There it is. Yep. So I'm going to take the original with me and see what we can do. I am back from JCar, and yes, as we thought, the M205, which makes sense because they're 20mm high and 5mm wide, fuses that they have don't really fit the fuse holder. So I don't know if that's the type there. Now, what does that say? DVP4-V, maybe? Or DV, or is that a V or is that a B? DVP4-B. Anyway, yeah, so M205 will not probably go into that because, for a start, it won't sit in there. But I don't know, unless I can force that in, because of course the first thing that's probably going to happen is I got 5. First thing that's probably going to happen is that there's a short somewhere, and so the fuse immediately blows. So regardless of whether I can get it to fit in or not. Oh no, it's actually too short. You can see there, it's actually it's not very long at all. So yeah, I've got no hope of fitting that in. Big fat Western imperialist capitalist pig fuse. So I'm going to have to do something else. Replace it. I have replaced the fuse holders before. Let me find them. Okay, so this is what I've got. So you just kind of hope that the cutout is basically the same size, and I can maybe use pliers to unscrew the nut and then perhaps pull this out with the wiring attached and maybe put that in, maybe, hopefully. But before I do that, I'm just looking at some of the, there's some real shenanigans have gone on from what I can see. It's just looking at some of this. Let me get the light over a bit more. Some real kind of shenanigans look like have gone on. So some real rework. I'm not very confident. 99% gentlemen and fraction of a percent ladies. But we'll give it a try. Yes, I am putting off having to replace that fuse holder, aren't I? And I'm just looking at these key switches are flaky as fuck, man. Flaky as fuck. FAF. All right. Enough. Let's get working on the block of titania. Oh, I had a look in the manual. Actually lists the amount of precious metals, gold, silver, and palladium in this. So there's just over 4 grams of. That's well in the. Oh, I guess maybe combined. Just over 4 grams of gold, and 1 gram of 1 gram of silver, and a fraction of a gram, like 0.0011 grams of palladium. I had a look. The spot price of gold today is like $107 a gram. So there's about $460 worth of gold in the computer. So I think I've actually made a profit, even if it doesn't work. Anyway, let's get to work on. Let's get to work on this. See if we can do something here. So what I want to do is try and move that nut. So I'm not going to record all this. Actually, I could probably actually take out that board, although I don't know how much wire I've got. Anyway, I'll figure it out. Making progress. So I got that out, so it was out of the way, which made it easier to unscrew the nuts. So I've managed to pull out that far. So I can hopefully just desolder that and then stick that in place. Oops. All right, let me do that. Hide my soldering iron because people don't like it when they see it sometimes. It's not too bad. It's not too bad, is it? Right. So that's from the switch. Careful, that's it was looped around. Right, so that's one from the switch, and then there's something on here. Probably just cut it off, shouldn't I? Oh, that pushes in. Only problem is I think that's the problem. Still, I don't think it'll fit. No, see, that's the problem. No, it doesn't. It's too big. It won't even push in. Yep. All right. I am making the right choice. Come on. I should just cut it, shouldn't I? But I don't want to cut wire too much. Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to throw this away. I'm going to obviously keep it. Because, you know, they probably don't make these so much anymore. There we go. Soviet era fuse holder. What was what? Right, I need to pull these out and basically, I guess do the same thing. So solder that to there and then these two to that one. But what I wanted to do first is I need to take the old nut off. I need to take the old nut off those wires, so I need to make sure I don't mix them up first. Those two go together, that one's separate. Okay, let me sort all this out, see if that'll fit in without widening the hole, and then, well, we'll try powering it on. It just does, well, it does fit if I screw it in. I can screw it in. But then the problem is I can't pre-solder the wires on, because otherwise the wires are going to get all twisted. So, although okay, I could probably push it in. Okay, yeah, that's good enough. Yep. So I don't have to do anything. That'll work. So I'll straighten that out. I shall solder the wires on. Make sure I put that on first, and yeah, we'll be good to go, ready to go. I think that looks all right, doesn't it? Okay, so it fits in perfectly. I didn't have to adjust the hole. Hole was perfect. Right, so I've got changed the plug. So in Australia, our plugs are keyed. So we've got active and neutral, or active and neutral, one or the other, and earth down here. Yeah, I've got the active line wired into the switch and the fuse, because that's what we do here in Australia. I guess a lot of places you don't fuse the neutral, because the neutral is the return or something. So I'll plug that in, and on the output I'm going to test the voltages if it works, if the fuse doesn't immediately blow. So I've got just a 5-pin DIN panel socket here, because I know sticking the voltmeter probes into there, I'm going to short something. So this is hopefully a bit easier. I'm not going to, well, unless I'm incredibly stupid, cue probably 1 minute later, I shouldn't short anything. Yeah, because obviously I want to do that before I plug it into the actual computer, in case, you know, the voltages aren't right. I don't want to damage the computer if it works. Okay, let's not get our hopes up. So I'll hold it up like that. So the LED, I would change the LED as well, but it looks like it's glued in. There's nothing holding on here, so we've just got some, I think it's been glued in. So I'm not going to worry about that at the moment, especially if we don't know if it works. So Vic will be on. All right, so switch it on there. Switch it on here. Okay, so we've got a decent power line. Let me switch on the voltmeter. So it looks like nothing is blowing up yet. Okay, so it might be working. Let's see. Where was the Petania? Pinout. So pin 3 is common, obviously. So, which pin? Normally pin 2 is obshare, is the common. So pin 2, so looking at it, I'm used to working at it from the back. So I think that's pin 1, pin 2, pin 3, pin 4, pin 5. So pin 1, 2, 3. So I think that one over there, I think that might be ground. I think that might be pin 3. Let's see. Sorry, my hands are a bit, my fingers are a bit dry, sorry. This isn't a hand model channel, sorry, the engineer doing things channel. So, DC voltage, I can't remember which one I said was ground now. I'll hold that down. That says -5. That says +12. Well, 12 point, okay, it's varying quite a bit actually. Yes, I know it's not under load. 12.8, all right, 12.8, +5, 5.2, +5, 5.2. So it looks like 5 volts, 12 volts, 12.8, -5, oh, yeah, -5, and then this one here is obshare, ground. Does that make sense? Let me power it off. So it seems to be working. So ground, obshare, -5 volts, +12 volts, +5 volts, +5 volts. Right. Well, I guess that doesn't leave me with any more excuses to not connect it up and power it on. Video output is pretty easy wherever I put it. Even though it's a 5-pin DIN, I'll put it on the screen anyway. So the video output is video. Yeah, it's a 5-pin DIN, so power's off anyway. Whichever one it is here is +12 volts, ground, and video. So it looks like we've got baseband video out. The 12 volts will be for an external RF modulator box, so we can ignore that. So basically we've got baseband video out, which means that we don't have to try and get baseband video, I'm hoping. So if the machine's working. So let me make up a cable for that now. I think I might use a 3-pin DIN, and then I just need an RCA cable, and we'll be right to go. Making a video cable. I haven't done one of these videos for a while. So what I normally do is I've got the DIN connectors, and I buy these in bulk from AliExpress. They're just 3-meter RCA. So 3-meter RCA, cut them in half so that I've got two 1.5-meter cables. And in this particular case, I only need the yellow one really. So I'll have a pull that out. So it's about halfway, and cut it. Right, so discard one. No, I'm only joking, so I'll keep that for later. So this particular case I don't need audio, so I'll just pull the yellow one off. Like so. And if I was clever, actually, what I could do is, because you've got 12 volts coming out, you could run that through a 5-volt regulator and use that to power. For example, in my case, I'm going to be using a composite to HDMI converter. Probably this one. So, well, CVBS input, so baseband or composite input, and then HDMI out, and 5 volts. So I could, you know, have a little 5 volt regulator, switching regulator, and use the computer to power that, but it doesn't matter. So I've got this spare cable for later. So in this case here, so I'm going to be using a 3-pin DIN, which is, well, I would say overkill. Overkill in that 5-pin DIN plugs are much easier to come by than 3-pin DIN, I guess. But in this case we only need 3 pins, 1, 2 and 3. So 2 is obshare, which is common. So that's pin 2 in the middle, that's common. And I think, oh, it is actually labelled on the back here. So that's pin 1. So that'll be video, common, and then that's 12 volts. So what I'll do is close your eyes, put your safety squints on, just cut that off. So I don't need to worry about it. Although in this case, it's the one I needed. Pin 1 is the one I don't need. So I'll just keep this one for later. and cut that off another one. I'll be back. Set up the chapter markers so that most people will skip past that and can just come straight to here. So, as I was saying, pin 1, 2 and 3. So pin 1 is 12 volts, ground and video. So again, sorry for my rather dry fingers. So let's chop off pin 12, the 12 volt pin. So now we've just got ground and video. And we've got our RCA cable here, which has got both wires in there. So it's just a matter of connecting it up, and we'll soon see if this works or not. Okay, I've got my cable made. Very simple. So I plugged into the video output, and that's the Pitanya, that's the power input. So I don't want to mix those up. So we've got power input. I'm going to use the Mikrosha power supply. I don't have the keycaps on, so let me get quick time. Okay, start recording. Okay, power on there, power on there, got power on light there, and no video output. Surprise! That's the Rooslat button. So can I, surprise, surprise, it's not working. So unfortunately this one's going to have to join the queue. Let me just double check. It is doing composite input and not S video input. As far as I can tell, yeah, there's not even a black screen. All right, I will. Like I said, I wasn't expecting this to work. I don't know why that's. Yeah, I don't know where to start really. Okay, let's stop recording that. All right. Okay, so what I can do is I can check the video output. I can check the shift register here. Are we getting any video signal here? The 8275. Are we getting any activity on the 8080? DMA controller there. I think that's the PIT. That's the programmable interval timer, which is used for sound. Actually, one thing I remember, let me just try one more thing. Okay, power that off. Power that on. Got the reset button up the top here. Sometimes the 86RK usually doesn't come up cleanly for whatever reason. So it is powered on. Let me just do a reset. Ooh. I do get a sound out of the speaker. So surprise, surprise, reset's working, but not getting any video signal out. Right, let's power up the oscilloscope and have a look. Did a quick look, doesn't seem to be much activity anywhere. So first thing to check, so this is the 8224, which is the, well, the equivalent of, so it's a KR580GF24, so Intel 8224, which is the clock generator. And obviously there's the crystal there. So the first thing to do is to check, is there a clock signal coming out of here? And this also handles the reset for the 8080. So, well, no, that's 8255, which is probably why there's no signal coming out of it. This is the 8080 there. So I might see something more on that if I check that one. But I'll check that as well. But I need to set up the tripod for that so that we can have a look at the oscilloscope. Right, so I had a quick look at the video voltage just to make sure I wasn't putting 12 volts into the video converter. And it does look like it was giving 1.7 volts DC on the voltmeter. So it does look like there is some sort of video signal. Let me so let's just check. Oops. Let me just check. Right, so the 8224, let's see, reset in, ready, sync, clock to TTL is pin 6. Alright, so it does appear to be a clock. Alright. It's at 1 volt per division, 2 volts per division. That seems right. Yeah, 1.77 megahertz. That's, well, it's about right. So, okay, so the clock is working. Okay, so for the 8080, let's just have a quick look. So pin 1, pin 2, pin 3, pin 4. So it could, it could be something simple like it's stuck in reset. Just okay, so it's nothing there. So reset is pin 1 on the 8224. That appears to be, yep, low. Reset in is, that's active high. That's pin 2 on the 8224. I'm just waiting for it to active low. So that's high. Okay, so it shouldn't be in reset. But there doesn't seem to be any activity on the 8080. One thing I could probably do is also check temperatures. I don't feel any heat on the DRAM. Oh! Okay. Reset. Okay, that was interesting. I had the oscilloscope probe. Let's just have a look. I had the oscilloscope probe ground connected to that capacitor there. So that's the ground. I think it was the ground. Because that's the ground rail there. I think that was the ground rail there, yeah. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, okay. Doesn't seem to be much activity. Let's check the thermo, as I was saying. So there's 16 kilobits, so we've got one bank of 16 kilobytes and a second bank of 16 kilobytes to give 32 kilobytes. So I'll just quickly check the data in, data out. I think maybe pin 2 for data in, pin 14. Usually they connected together anyway. And I'll just see if there's any activity there. Alright, yeah, there's no activity on the DRAM at all, hence the reason why they're cold, basically. There doesn't seem to be any activity on the 8080, it's completely dead. So all I've established so far is that the power input should be okay, and that there is a clock signal being generated by the 8224. It does seem to be held and reset. Yeah, it could be the 8080 is dead, but the problem is it's 2.5mm pitch, and it's not socketed, so it means I'm going to have to desolder it, which isn't a big problem. But I don't have any 2.5mm sockets. But I do have some PCBs, thanks to PCBWay, that I have designed, but I haven't built them yet. So they will go fit in a 2.5mm socket and accept a 2.54mm, say, socket and then IC. But they are a bit laborious to build. I think the idea was I was going to basically pull all these out, like so, and manually put them in. That's an idea. So maybe, well, that'll be a separate video. So I'm going to do a separate video on the 2.5mm socket idea that I've made, and also on my JCUKEN keyboard layout. Because looking at these keys again, power off, looks like they're in blocks of 4, so I could do a daughter board in a block of 4. And then what they've done is when they need 2, is that they've just cut them off, so they've made up 2. So yeah, so it seems to be block of 4 is the standard, and then you can cut them to size as required. So we've got 4, 4, 4, 2 along the top. So I think I might look at doing that next. But of course that depends on me getting, although I can use just blank. Anyway, I'm talking to myself. Okay, let's end it there. This thing needs some real work. I don't know what all this modifications are, especially when we look on the back. Again, let's just have another look on the back. Yikes. They hid that shit, didn't they? This seems to be a power cable. It could be something simple here. I probably need to check. Make sure there's no shorts. Got some connectors here on, I guess, this internal interface. But I've not seen any documentation. I've got the documentation for the Mikrosha, but I've not seen any documentation so far for all of these bodges, why the bodges were done. So that's what I try and need to figure out as well. This is the DRAM side here, which is a fucking mess. Maybe I should go through and just clean this up a bit, I guess. An additional decoupling capacitor. What was that needed for? Okay. Some work required, unfortunately. But I will not give up. I will persevere. Bye for now.